Age of Fantasy Regiments. All right, you bums have been after me to do this for a year. Let's get to it. For those few of you who don't know, Age of Fantasy Regiments is one of, I think there's like 5 titles. It's a free PDF. You can download it at onepagerules.com. It's by One Page Rules, and they've got like... For those of you that don't know, Age of Fantasy Regiments is from the guys at onepagerules.com. You can download a free copy of this. You can get about half of the rule book for free and all of the army lists, and they even have a couple of nice little apps. It's my first time playing this. This is a rank and flank fantasy game. They also have a skirmish game, and I think it's a warband game, but I have only just begun to dip my toes into the one-page waters. Now, as I said, it's half a rule book, and you can see it's more than one page. The rules all fit on one page, which, I mean, that's most miniature war games, isn't it? We call them quick reference sheets. But, hey, it's a good gimmick, and if you support the Patreon for like $6 a month, they got a whole bunch of those STL files for those of you that are into printing, and they have a couple of apps that make the gameplay easier. For example, they have an army builder, which is free, and you can just go through and click a bunch of check boxes and print up your own armies, but then you come to the printing. And we all know how printers work. I'm telling you guys, when the revolution comes, most people are going to be headed for like the Capitol building. I'm going to be headed for the houses of printer company executives. Those are the guys we want swinging from ropes on from the lamppost. I'm going to be doing analog today. Yeah, I have the nice pretty one, but I have no way to get it from digital to physical format because the more technology advances, the less useful it is, ain't it? I'm going to be doing about a 700-point battle. And as I said, about 700 points because having done this analog, this game is all about the list building. It's very much a rank and flank, very much a... Yes, hide this, Scotty. The beeping is my buddy. She's keeping us company today as we play. It's very much one of these kind of games where you can kind of like do the equivalent of pixel bitching to try to squeeze every last little iota, every little drop of ability out of your boys, out of your troops. We're not going to do that today. We're just playing about 700 points. I don't even know how many points I got on the table. It's going to be fine. And by way of warning, the beeping you hear in the background is not an Xbox. It's my good buddy Biscotti. How you doing, baby? Say hi to the people. We'll start with the goblins. Notice that the units are in increments of 5, not 6, as in Dragon Rampants. I've got 5 units. This is really 6 units. I bought 2 units of Lancers that you see here in the back. They have lances, so they have 1 attack per bro, and then they have impact of 1. The mounts, each of these wolves also has 1 attack and an impact of 1. I'm a little unclear on how that works. We'll get to it when we get to it. What you need to know today is that I have purchased banners for 1, 2, 3 of these units. I'm going to wield all of my Lancers as a single unit, and we have a unit of hand weapons. This guy's got a short spear. I know. Do you see how they all have lances? They're lances. See how they mostly have swords? Their swords. And then I do have a unit of shooter, fast boys in the back. Of course, everyone on the table is fast. And then I had to kind of cheat a little bit. I went to the Beastman army and took the stats for hounds. And they are fast riders. They are also scouts. It's called bounding advance, but it's scout. They are the last to deploy, and they can deploy anywhere on the table, not within 6 inches of an enemy. One other thing to be aware of for those of you that are watching my channel for one of the first times because you saw One Page Rules and your One Page Rule fanboys, welcome aboard. I play at half scale. I'm using 15mm figures. These are all from Splintered Light. No, they're not. These guys in the back are from Pendraken, of all places. The guys with the great big honking spears. Everybody else is Splintered Light, though. Oh, wait, I don't know where these dogs come from. These could be Splintered Light, but I could be wrong. Hey, let's take a look at their opponent, the Dark Elves. Look at these handsome lads in gold, blue, and red. I never know how much detail to go into when I go through this, because some of you have played One Page Rules, some of you haven't. We'll just kind of do broad strokes, hitting the highlights. We've got some Raptor Knights. These are elite riders equivalent. We've got heavy infantry. These are classed as warriors. I'm using the Dark Elves list pretty much note for note. The guys in the back, they have great swords. Armor piercing 2. Then we've got guys with halberds, and we really need to specify they're not spears. These are halberds. There's a big difference. Halberds, you only get 1 attack, but they have rending. If you hit with a 6 on your 2-hit roll, your opponent effectively can only make his armor save on a 6. And then we've got a unit of... Now, these are classed as Corsairs, and the army list I have gives you 10 of these with double attacks. But the Army List Builder only gives you 5 of these. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on. Corsairs, 2 swords, that's what we got here. They are furious. And then we've got our leader here is a sorcerer. So he has got Wizard 2, which means when he tries to cast a spell, he gets a +2. And let's take a look at that list here real quick. Every army list comes with its own unique spell list, which goes to adding a little bit more flavor to each of the armies. As you can see with names like Despair, Darkness, World of Pain, Black Bolt, our Dark Elves really are dark. Now the little number here, this is what you have to roll. You have to make a D6 roll. You got to get a 6 or better in order to pull off a Black Bolt. Because we have Wizard 2, he only needs to roll a 4 or better to get this off. And it's a pretty tough spell. 3 automatic hits, AP2. You know, that could wipe out a single hero unit in a single shot. So that's kind of what to expect on the wizard spells for our Dark Elves. Let's see if they can continue their unbeaten streak. Today's table is pretty basic, as I will continue to remind you, this is my first time playing this game, and I want to keep it as simple as possible. All the terrain you see on the table, hey, we're somewhere out in the grasslands. It's all classed as difficult terrain, meaning if any of your unit's movement passes through the terrain, the most they can move that turn is 3 inches. In order to set up your table, you and your opponent must set up D3 plus 2 objective markers on the table. With a result of a 4, that would be 2 plus 2, that's 4 objective markers. I will be using yellow gems for neutral objective markers. When they are captured by the goblins, I will replace it with a green to show who controls it. If they are captured by the Dark Elves, I will replace it with purple. If it is contested, the yellow one goes down. I do have red gems. Those will be marking wavering units. The idea here is the Goblin said, I want to put it right in the middle. I'm faster than the other guy. I think I can claim these real quick. The Dark Elves said, yeah, well, I'm going to dump one right in the middle of this difficult ground just to slow you up to kind of negate your speed advantage. Then the players roll off, and the winner must start deploying their army first. All right, well, I'll use a green die for the Goblins and a blue die for the Dark Elves. The winner must start deploying first. That's the Goblins. Deployment looks a little something like this. The Goblins have their bows over here on your left. They've got their hand weapons in the center and their big double unit on the right as you look at it with the leader in the center. Now, the hounds here are a little different. They have scout. They are able to deploy last, and then after they deploy, they're immediately able to move 3 inches. That's why they've kind of cheated up. They're not quite within range to claim this, but we'll take care of that in just a second. On the part of the Dark Elves, they've put their Raptors on your left. They put most of their foot heavy hitters on the right, and they're going a little bit easier in the center. Now, the spears, they're hoping can deal with enough of these mounted guys over here on the left-hand side of the screen. That's basically what they're getting at, and we'll need to look at what spells are available to our wizard that might slow things down. But because they deployed first, the goblins get to move first. Despite what it may look like, these guys are going to go ahead and pivot, and then they're going to rush. Everybody on the goblin side has fast. Rather than contest for these 2 gems on this side, they're going to go ahead and use their extra little burst of speed. Because they're fast, normally on a run, you would move a total of 6 inches. Because they're fast, they're going to move a total of 8, and they're going to be able to get right up here, right in the Dark Elves' grill. We pivoted around that center guy, and you pivot, then move. And what that's going to do is buy us some time for the rest of our army to get into position. Because they've moved, now it becomes the activation of the Dark Elves. And the Dark Elves are going to go ahead and advance these guys. Now, they're limited to moving 6 inches total because they're moving into the rough going. So even though they've rushed and advanced, well, it doesn't make any... So here's the first little inquiry I've got about how terrain effects work. Difficult going means the fastest you can move is 6 inches. Normally, now 3 inches for us, of course. Even if you run. So at that point, it doesn't make any sense. It basically says you can't run through these, you can only advance. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring these guys up. Then it's going to be the time for the goblins to move, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to pivot around this front guy, and we are going to rush. That's 6 inches, and then here's our extra 4 inches, and we're going to run straight up to here, leaving that gem behind. If we can hold off on the enemy, then we should be able to claim this at the end of this first jockeying for position round. And what I'm going to do, rather than disrupt I guess that worked pretty good. You know, we'll kind of cheat around it as best we can. The gems, three-dimensional, probably not great. We should probably be using the little poker chips, but, you know, be that as it may. This is our zone of control around each of our units. I just dropped this little guy down. See how there's nobody within an inch and a half? We're looking good. Let me move everybody. I went ahead and just did all of my movement. I haven't resolved any of the combat. We've got some swordmen charging here. We've got some spearmen charging the hounds. And we've got a bow shot for the goblins. And we've got a magic spell over here for our leader. I know this is a little out of order. Technically, we should move these guys up, resolve this combat before play kicks on over to the goblins who would be doing that shooting next. And then play kicks over and these guys charge. And then, but I just would, because we're learning... And because I don't want to have to deal with camera angles and all that setup, I just wanted to go ahead and show you guys what the turning is going to look, what the movement look like. And now we'll go take a look at this bow shot over here. Quality 5, taking a shot, range of 9 inches. Obviously, our unit is within 9 inches. So we roll hitting on 5s, and that is a complete whiff on their part. Then we're going to take a look at this combat right down here. 10 halberdiers have a quality of 4. Halberds have a thing called rending. So this 6 is a special kind of hit. And technically they have a sergeant. I should roll one of these dice, gets a +1. I should use a different colored die to represent him. The trick here is that this 6 not only does a hit, but it does what's called rending. So for these 3 hits, let me just tuck that aside. For these 3 hits, our hounds have a defense of 5, and they do not score any hits. This last save that I have to make is a guy who is a hound who has been rended, and rending means you have AP 4. He only saves on a 6. Normally he would save on a 5. 5 minus 4 would be a 9, but any 6 is always a success. And hey, look at that, we got a 6. So we wind up with 2 hounds that are left over to counterattack. I think it's the survivors get to counterattack, and hounds have a quality themselves of 4, but they do not have the rending, so that's 1 hit they score. And then, in fact, I'm going to put these bad boys back here. The halberdiers have a defense of 5, meaning 1 guy goes down for the Dark Elves. The next thing we have to do is figure out who won this combat. Having done 3 wounds to the hounds, we can remove these now, to just 1 for the Dark Elves, it's pretty clear the Dark Elves won. What does that mean? This one's pretty simple. Take a quality check. On a 4 or better, they succeed, and I think they're still in the fight. On a less than 4, now because they are reduced to less than half their original models, these fellas just rout. These last 2 hounds have done their duty. They slowed these guys down. They would have been contesting for this. The 6 inches of movement normally would have put them within an inch and a half of this gem, but of course they had to stop to deal with the hounds, which is going to score a gem for the goblins. So, you know, Godspeed, faithful, loyal hounds, you did your job. Well done. Then we have to do it's called consolidation move. If the defending unit was not completely destroyed, then they move back. The other unit may pivot by 180 degrees or move up to 3 inches in any direction. So, having destroyed that means our boys do get to move up an inch and a half in any direction. So they are going to move up to here. Now, they can't get to within an inch and a half of this unit, but it will allow them to kind of advance up just a little bit more, like so. And although they're not contesting for the... always pull casualties from the back row. Although they're not contesting for this gem just yet, they're in good position for next round. Some difficult decisions. Next, we're going to take a look at our spellcaster. This guy is within 6 inches. Let's keep it simple. We're just going to shoot a black bolt of doom at this fella right here. He needs to get a 4 or better. Normally it's 6, but he gets a +2 because he's a wizard too. He succeeds. Target enemy model takes 3 automatic hits at AP 2, giving our goblin boss a defense. He only saves these hits on a 6. And without a single save, he takes 3 wounds, and just like that, he is also removed from the fight. Then we're going to do our last melee down here. The swordsmen have charged into contact with the goblins, and we're already learning some strategy with a mounted force. Hang back. Make sure you're charging. You're going to be doing a heck of a lot more damage when you do. We've got 10 attacks for our boys with the great swords. Quality 4. Let's roll right here. Stand up, little blade dancer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits altogether. Do those great swords have any special abilities? They are at AP 2. The goblins have to make their defense is reduced by 2. Normally, their defense is 5. They're only saving on 6s. They're going to get 2 altogether. They will lose 3 of their boys, and then they get to counterattack with 2, 4, 6, 7 attacks. And they have a quality of... Are those Lancers? Yes, they are. Now, they did not charge, so they don't get their impact 1. But they are going to take 7 attacks at a quality 5, and then 7 more because they are mounted. So we'll count these up. The guys that are mounted get no hits with their quality of 5. The wolves that are in contact will get a total of 2 hits. Not great for the goblins. Only 2 saves necessary with the defense of these halberds have a defense of 5, and they're not going to make any saves. So it will be a total of 2 wounds to the goblins. Do the goblins have any power-ups? Do they have any banners? Do they have anything like that? Yeah, they do have a banner. So it's 3 to 3. The Dark Elves did 3 wounds. The goblins did 2. Plus 1 for the banner is a 3 versus a 3. That means these guys have to fall back an inch to about here. And it should be 5 in the front and 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 3 in the back row. Okay. If either side had a full second row of dudes, that would count as basically 1 extra wound in the combat, but they're both reduced to just a front row plus a couple of extra spares in the back, so that's going to be the end of the turn. Now we have to take a look at who controls which gems. The score is 2 to the Dark Elves to 2 to the Goblins, and because the Dark Elves activated last on round number 1, they're going to activate first on round number 2, and we are going to go ahead and charge these guys back into contact. This time, instead of our 10 attacks, we are going to be rolling just 8. But it does preclude the possibility of a charge by that big unit. 3, 6, 8. Here we go. Same thing, looking for 4s. We get a total of 5 hits altogether. These are AP2. Only 6s will save. Not a bad roll, so 3 more go down. Now that it does reduce the unit to less than half. They will have to make a morale check regardless of what happens next. So 3 hits to those guys, and they are only going to be able to make 8 attacks in return. Looking for 5s, they only score a single hit. The Dark Elves are going to save that hit, and without question, it's going to be quality check time for the Goblins, which they fail, and just like that, they are out of the fight. Man, I thought 4 turns was not going to be nearly enough. Now, these guys can move up to 1.5 inches in any direction, and of course, they're going to go ahead and move up to take command of this extra gem up here. So there's only 8 guys still remain. Not looking too bad for the Dark Elves, but the Goblins do have a chance to get back some of their own, and with 3 of their units gone, they're going to have to charge the Raptor Knights. So we bring them up, we shuffle them over, and we kind of split the difference. We're going to bring our Raptor Knights over like this. It's pretty good. That ain't too shabby. And we're going to have to do a combat over here. Our Goblins with the swords have impact 1. We're going to do 5 quality 5 hits for the Riders, 5 quality 5 attacks for the Wolves, and then 5 automatic hits for the impact, I think. Does impact transform 5 of those attacks into automatic hits, or is it 5 hits on top of the 10 dice? I'm going to play it 5 hits on top of the 10 dice, and the Goblins continue to roll like complete pants. 2 hits out of the 10, so that's a total of 7 saves altogether that the Raptors have to make. And they have a defense. Now, Raptor Knights are terrifying. You absolutely wanted to charge into them because they have a defense of, I want to say 3. Raptor Knights, defense of 3. Whew. They're going to make a total of 1, 2, 3, and we'll give them that one. 4 saves altogether. They still take 3 hits. Kablow. Not looking good for them. But they do get to make, and again, these guys are scary, they get to make a total of 3 attacks for each person, for each survivor. So they do get to make, even though there's only 2 figures on the table, they do get to make 6 attacks at quality 3. They get a total of 6 hits. Do those have any kind of armor piercing? They do not. No, they do not. So our goblins have to take 6, looking for 5s, and there's the one they were looking for. They lose 1 figure. They have won this combat. The Raptor Knights have to make a quality check. With a result of a 2, they fail, and they are wiped from the board. Not bad. All they needed was a 3, and it looks like our goblins are back in the fight. They have not gone. Now, if they attack any more this turn, because they already fought a round of combat, they will only be hitting on 6s. That's not great. The Dark Elves get to go next, and we will attack with these guys. We're going to pivot, and we're going to charge into the flank. Now, because they're not otherwise engaged, I think we still go ahead and pivot them and do our little, lineup. But now it's going to be, they're reduced to 4. They're hitting on 6s. This is, although they're getting hit in the, normally when a unit is hit in the flank, they do not get to counterattack. I guess that applies here. But what we're going to do is we're going to roll our 9 dice for the guys with the spears. Halberds, I should say. These are going to be AP 4 hits. They're going to get, they're only quality 4, so they're only going to get 3 hits altogether. But one of those hits will save on a 5 and does not, and 2 of those hits only save on a 6. So that reduces them to less than half strength, like so, and then the 2 guys that are left over are going to get to make a total of 4 attacks. 1 for the rider, 1 for the mount, and they are looking for 5s. They only get 1 hit, and that hit is going to be, is it saved? The guys with the halberds have a defense of 5. It is not. So they do 1 blamage, and having won that combat, the Dark Elves got to do nothing. We check our morale, and the goblins are gone. We're not even halfway through the game, and the goblins are just, man, they're really, oh, and I think I even cheated on that one. The goblins only hit on 6s because they're exhausted. Got to remember that one. Next up, whose turn was it? That was the Dark Elves. These guys can charge into combat with the Dark Elves, and I think that's got to be what we do next. They are going to be able to move 7 inches, which will, how far away are they? Let's check. Because they're fat. Oh, no, I'm sorry. They can charge a total of 8 inches. That's only going to, well, that's unfortunate. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring them up to about here. We'll charge on the next round. We're learning here. Actually, we're going to stop right there. And if we just advance a little bit, they are in range. We can go ahead and take a shot at these guys with 5 dice. Quality 5. Goblin shooters hit on 5s. They've got their... Do they? Yeah, but just attack 1. So they're going to get a total of 2 hits on this unit here. And that unit has an armor of 5. They're going to make no saves. They're going to lose 2 guys. And... do you take a morale check for shooting? This is where it gets a little complicated, but for good reason. Melee is terrifying. When you are face to face, you can feel the hot breath of your enemy on your cheeks as he wants nothing more than to do you in. That's terrifying. A couple of arrows landing by, that's luck, whatever. Because they are not less than half size. You take a morale check when you lose a melee or when you're at half size. Still at 6, they're still in the fight. Let's go take a look at the other side of the battle over there. And honestly, there's not much to it. The Dark Elves still have 2 units capable of moving. This unit is going to kind of leapfrog a little bit. They're going to get out of the nasty terrain. But Remay, they're going to stay right on the edge of it. That puts them within an inch and a half. Oh, no, you know what? We don't care if they're within an inch and a half, do we? They already own that bad boy. So they are going to be able to move a total of 3 inches. And really, that's about 3 inches anyway, so that's good. And then our boss man is going to go ahead and race 6 inches over to here. maintaining line of sight to the guys just off screen. They're just, there we are. So just maintaining line of sight. And that's going to be the end of the turn. Now we check for control, and being within an inch. Is this within an inch and a half? Yes, it is. We're going to swap out that green gem for a purple gem. And just like that, round 2. Man, can anybody stop the Dark Elves? This is my 3rd combat with these guys, and they are just indomitable. The good news for the Goblins is they do get to move first. They are going to charge, and for once, they're finally going to get their free impact. They're going to have to hold on. This is the beginning of round 3. They are going to be able to do a total of. So first, they get their 5 impact. Then those guys have, well, these are bowmen, but they're still quality 5. They still get their, do they have impact 1? Yeah, they still get a total of 10 attacks. So 5 hits plus hitting on 5s. They're going to get a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. So 9 saves altogether for the Dark Elves. The Hellbirds are not particularly tough. They are only going to make 4. That's going to put them down by 5, and it's going to leave them with just 1 guy left to try and return fire. I'll roll the red one to keep it separate. He is going to miss. He only hits on a 3, and then he's going to need to make a quality check. Looking for a 5 or better, he fails, and that unit is out of the fight. Got to remember. Now I'm going to put, just to remind myself, I'm going to go ahead and do what I did for chainmail, and I'm going to put a little exhausted marker down. But the Goblins are done. The Dark Elves are going to race. They're going to turn, and they're going to run on over to here. And then this unit will simply advance. That way they can move a couple of inches up to here. They'll move 3 inches, rotate, and they're going to spin around to basically right about here. And then our spellcaster has to decide what he's going to do. He's going to go ahead and drift back. He wants to kind of hide behind his friends. He's going to stop right there. After all the movement is done, our battlefield looks a little something like this. Our Dark Lord, as I said, they moved up. He faded back. Now he is within 6 inches of this unit, meaning he can cast a spell. And he's going to cast Steel Soul. He needs to roll a 3 or better to pull this off. With a 4, he does. Steel Soul, target enemy unit, kabow. Within 6 inches, kabow. They immediately chart, no, that's World of Pain. Takes 4 automatic hits with AP 1. They now have to take 4 saves, and their defensive 5 becomes a defensive 6. They only make 1. They're going to lose 3 of their boys. Because they're reduced to half size, they only stay on the table with a 5 or 6. They roll a 1. They scupper off, as they say, and the battlefield, we'll flip this around to purple. And the score is now 4-0 in favor of the Dark Elves. So what have we learned today? Well, the big take-home message is that Age of Fantasy Regiments is upside down. It's a delightful little game. Yeah, we operate at a high level here in the House of Wargaming. It's a delightful little game. It plays really fast. Now, part of the reason it plays really fast is that by putting our objective markers 1 move per rules, the objective markers exist within about 1 move of one side or the other. You've got a 4-foot table. You deploy within 1 foot of the side, and all of your markers are within 1 foot of your deployment zone. Turn 1, objective markers are being captured. You get right to the die rolling. I don't know that I really like that style. I like the couple of opening rounds of playing footsie and kind of flirting with your opponent. You've got your deployment out, and then, which way are they going to go? This way or this way? A little round or 2 of kind of bluffing and counter-bluff and kind of fine-tuning where you're going. I like that. But if you really want to get stuck in and start rolling dice in combat right away, this is the game for you. We also learned that if you're going to play this game, do not use cavalry to hold ground. Cavalry are meant to capture ground. They're an offensive unit. Do not sweep up and grab ground with them because they're going to get turned into mincemeat. That's a very historical result. That is how cavalry are supposed to be used in the real world. We learned that Age of Fantasy Regiments could be used very effectively for a medieval combat game. You could eliminate all the magic, still a great game. We did use our Dark Lord very effectively. He is a support unit, and by standing back and just kind of plinking away and whittling down the enemy, he was able to make a big difference. A lot of these units, just losing that one or two, because you've only got 10 figures on the table, they lose one or two figures. When they get stuck into combat, they lose two or three more. They're already down to half strength, and a single failed morale check puts them right off the table. So great game, a lot of fun, moves crazy quick, and we will be playing again. We also learned that the Dark Elves, I don't think they're unstoppable. I just don't think we've found the right strategy to counteract them. And again, it's worth pointing out that the Goblins were operating at about a 10% point differential deficit. We gave them a little bit of advantage at the start, but maybe not enough. Maybe we need to really fine-tune and hit that, in this case, about 700-point army list. Maybe go the full 750, even though we forgot a couple of sergeants for some of these guys and maybe a banner or two, but I don't think at the end of the day it make that big of a difference. So fun game. We will be returning to this sometime in the near future. Thanks for playing along. And again, as always, I ain't perfect. I'm about as close as you can get, but I'm not perfect. So if you saw me doing anything wrong, particularly that impact thing, not clear to me from the rules, hit me up in the comments. It's right down there. Hit the buttons. Do the things. You know what it is. I'm praying for you.